Hey, Jeff. Long time no see.
I'm telling you, it's been forever, Kristen.
I know. Just can't get rid of me, even though you try.
You wake up on a Monday morning and the next thing you know, Kristen is on her way. And then you have tragedy strike in the family. We can talk about that a little bit later. But you came, you saw, you conquered, you went, and you did awesome stuff when you were here, and I appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thanks for letting me lay my head upon the pillow. I
That was
appreciate
about
it.
it.
Yeah, I know it was a whirlwind. It was like, hi, bye, back to Vegas. But that's
And
business.
lay your head upon the pillow that you had to make because, we were on such short notice.
I know. I know. Oh, well.
I
Some
sent
things
you
can
an
be
I
planned.
sent you an Instagram reel about that, by the way.
Did you? I haven't looked at it yet.
I did. You have to take a look at it.
Which part? The fact that you don't know how to make a bed, or the fact that people just show up like with less than 8 hours notice?
No, this is more throwing me under the bus.
Good. I like that game.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah. Like
So
I know that most people don't know how to fold a fitted sheet. I'm in that camp. But I figured most people, especially at your age, would know how to make a bed. But alas, you continue to surprise me.
so here's the record, girlfriend. I know how to make a bed. I also know enough about making a bed that it is a lot easier and a lot faster when two people do it together. Teamwork makes the dream work. And I could have
So
left you to your own demise here at the kitchen table working on Wisdom of Wow boxes, and you would have never had to touch the beds. But again, like we work together on both ends.
we do. There is like no end or no beginning to the teamwork. It's, and especially if you were to ask your cat, who was a great help, Mr. Jones.
Always. Yeah, the real star of the show and your escapade here earlier in the week was Mr. Jones because he was everywhere. He didn't think you were building Wisdom of Wow boxes. He thought you were building him a jungle gym. He was all in.
Yeah, he was. Whether I wanted him to be all in the boxes or not, he
You
just
did
could.
not. You did not.
Bless him.
All right. Well,
Little,
you published a great article before you hit the road, and I got one out while you were on the way home. So let's talk about those. And
yeah.
I
In fact,
believe the focus of your article is right behind you. So tell us about it.
it is. It is. I cannot wait. In fact, I have a little surprise, which I don't think I told you about yet. So, one of my favorite pastimes is, of course, antiquing. That's my vice, as you
You
like to remind
have
me,
told me about antiquing a time or two.
just a few times. And of all the years that I've been antiquing, especially with Eric, we have never stumbled across an antique telephone, an antique wall phone. And the only time I've ever really interacted with one is on my favorite street, Main Street, USA, in the Starbucks, which is actually the Market House. If
Hmm.
you're lucky enough and you're paying attention, you'll be able to walk on over and pick up the receiver and listen in on an 1800s party line.
Party line.
It's so cool. When my daughter and I go together and we have girls trips, one of us holds our place in the line while the other one gets to go and listen to it. And it's just a really fun nod to yesteryear. And what I find so ironic about it and just so full of joy is that in a day and age where everybody has a smartphone, right? We have a supercomputer in our hand. There's just something so simple and quaint and nostalgic about picking up something that's mounted on the wall and listening in. And actually, this isn't even rotary, right? You'd have to go through a operator. And just for a moment in time, it's like time itself stands still, or better yet, goes backwards. And it's the only experience I've ever had with a phone like that has been on Main Street. So when I saw this beauty hanging on the wall, it wasn't a should we get this? It's how quickly, Eric, can I get somebody over here to help us get this sucker off the wall? And Eric knew just by looking at me, there was
Game
no
over.
needed. Yeah. Don't even try to convince me otherwise. We're getting the phone. So
It
yeah.
was number, please, as in how much is this bad boy going to cost?
Well, I got to negotiate a little bit
Well, of
and
course.
it came down. So I was able to save Eric some money, which I always remind him I do quite well. But the whole heartbeat of it was this idea of just connection and taking the time to pick up the receiver, taking the time to have those intimate conversations and face-to-face conversations. And we were talking about this earlier. Sometimes even text messages or emails can get lost in translation, and we
Hmm.
just can't replicate honest human contact and connection. And so it's a beautiful nostalgic reminder for that.
It
So yeah.
is, and, Walt wanted everything on Main Street to be a reflection of life in turn of the century America.
Hmm.
And I love Starbucks, and I certainly enjoy my caffeine hit. That would be problematic for Walt because there wasn't a Starbucks on any main street at the turn of the century, and so
Can't
Disney's had to
imagine that.
be I know, but Disney's had to be a little bit more flexible, right, to, modern taste and, modern conventions. I think the other thing that's really fascinating about the telephone is it's on Main Street, USA, right? And it's sort of the perfect setup for this idea that Walt had one foot in the past, i.e., Main Street, USA, and another foot in the future, i.e., turn right and head into Tomorrowland. But, the original vision for Tomorrowland is a future set in 1986, and it's very corporate, it's very nuclear, it's very atomic. Both in terms of energy and space race and what have you. And some of that happened,
Mm,
some of that was realized, but there was almost nothing in terms of communication. And so imagine for just a moment if instead of a focus on corporate America or a
mm,
nuclear America, Walt had focused on how we are going to communicate and be connected 1986, 2026, you name it. And so, the phone is closer to the past than Tomorrowland was in terms of Walt's vision for the future, because that future wasn't necessarily realized. Instead, we have the future in our hands via, the cell phones, the supercomputers, and you name it.
sure, sure. I love that connection too. But wait, there's more. So my husband told me when we got home, he was cracking it open. There's the actual receiver part was hidden inside. But he said, I bet if I tinkered with this long enough, I could play a little Imagineer and maybe get this working. And maybe we could start running our own party line recording and like get this actually kind of
Wow.
like what you see on Main Street. Well, I happen to know a guy, and I was having lunch with a lovely friend, Tim O'Day, and his wife, actually, excuse me, dinner this past week. And I was telling them all about my phone. And sure enough, he knew
Of course.
exactly where to find the recording. And by the end of that evening, in my email box is the original recording of the phone that's on Main Street. So we are going to actually get to bring a literal piece of Main Street
That's really
home.
cool.
I'm so excited.
That's awesome.
So
And I'm gonna
excited.
throw this out there. The next time you're in Southern California and we're at Disneyland together on Main Street, USA, let's go into the Starbucks. Let's enjoy a little party line time together and then sit down and for a podcast episode, record me beating you at checkers.
Sounds like a very magical time. You got a date.
I love
Well,
it.
I love what you wrote about, even though it's not necessarily an attraction that was found on Main Street, but instead in the bayou over at Pirates. And I am glad that you mentioned something that I feel like the entire world has been bickering over the entire month of July. I feel like we spent
Oh, we Disney fans, we are so good at it, right? Um,
my goodness. So
yeah.
yeah, tell us about that.
So the entire month, I've been doing an America 250 series and how U.S. history and Americana has been celebrated in the park from day one. And I was trying to figure out, okay, how do I keep that going this week? And was also very cognizant of the controversy that's broken out over this brand new audio animatronics pirate that Disney dare put into the beloved Pirates of the Caribbean attraction that has, been around since March 1967. And, it's beloved for good reasons. One, it's amazing, but two, arguably the most valuable theme park attraction in theme park history. Part of the popularity of the ride, but then you throw in the movie franchise and what have you.
Mhm.
And then secondly, it's the last attraction that Walt personally worked on.
Yeah,
He died in December of '66, and then Pirates opened, 3 months later, and so maybe a little more than a lot of the other attractions. It is one of those, like, "Don't touch it, it's perfect,"
sure.
"Everybody loves it, don't go there," so on and so forth, and so right before the July 4th weekend, Disney unveils this new audio animatronics after they had reopened the attraction. It had been under refurbishment for a couple of months or so. And sort of like Star Wars, no matter what Disney does, which I guess is Disney now as well, everybody just hates it. We can't
Yeah.
wait to go and experience it, but why didn't they do this? And how dare they do that? And it just goes on and on and on. And as I was thinking about that, I'm like, you know what? That is the American experience. We have been arguing because fortunately we are free to argue from day one. I mean, even when we declared that we were separate and independent from the British, there were many colonists who were like, "Whoa, I don't think so. Why are we doing that? I want to, stay attached to the king." You're never going to get 100% of anyone, let alone Americans, on board with anything. And so,
True.
and so I wrote about, this tension between honoring the past and, staying connected to tradition and heritage. And at the same time, finding new frontiers and taking risk and having, the courage to move forward. And our good friend, Tom Nabby, who we've had on the show, actually responded and said, Walt and the Walt Disney Company have always been committed to moving forward into the future. They may not always get it right,
Right.
but that is the vision and that is the commitment. And so, I'm not saying the pirate is right. I'm not saying the pirate is wrong. Although Lindsay and I did enjoy it. And as
Yeah.
I wrote in the article, like we noticed more of the other enhancements,
And I'm
which,
glad you mentioned that. Yeah, because
yeah,
there was a lot going on that
a
I feel like
lot.
nobody's talked about.
No one. Exactly. But again, and when I taught history of Disneyland as a U.S. history course, I just said, the park is a reflection. It's a mirror. And the fact that we're all up in arms and can't agree over this pirate is a reflection and a
Yep.
mirror of almost everything right now.
And I think deeper than that, you just stumbled upon it, is while we're so caught up in arguing over this or that or the other thing, or who's right, who's wrong, we miss the entire duration of the attraction that has been
Mhm.
updated and beautiful and has state of the art technology in terms of lighting and color saturation. How much is that true with the things that we see in the news and in the media and on social media? And we're just so distracted by that that we're missing the really good stuff
Oh,
that's going on.
1000%. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're failing to realize that we are subject to algorithms
Yeah.
that are, driving us apart and have no financial interest in bringing us together. But then,
Um,
secondly, they intentionally create controversy for the sake of eyeballs and clicks
yeah.
and attention,
100.
name it, right? And so, as a result, we form an opinion based on that exposure and those algorithms before we ever have a chance to experience it.
Absolutely. And we become almost landlocked. See what I did there with pirates? We become kind of landlocked in that kind of narrative and in that script that we've been fed. And very few are actually taking the time to do their due diligence and make sure that there's actual fact basis to support that.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and that's a whole nother conversation. That's a whole nother series of a podcast, just on
Yeah.
that rabbit hole. But
And so,
yeah,
kudos to Disney for for refurbishing the
yeah.
attraction, for giving us something new, right?
Mhm.
Might not be perfect, might not have been what I would have done, but at the
Yeah.
same time, they're not just resting on their laurels and, cashing my check and your check.
Right.
They're reinvesting, and I appreciate that. I value that, and there are going to be some bumps and missteps along the way. I don't think that this is necessarily a bump or a misstep. I mean, I would look at Tiki Room under new management as being a far greater a grievance than this new pirate. But again, like they didn't have to do anything.
Yeah, that's true. And think about how many people miss opportunities or choose not to even pursue the opportunity in the first place and they just stay stagnant. And if they had it their way, their life would be a lot like an untouched pirates that is the same thing over and over and over again. And we have that choice. But at least
We do.
Disney got off their park bench and they said, well, we're going to try. And I hope they just keep trying. And I hope our audience does too.
Yeah, I agree because your audience is more than the party line on an 1890 telephone, right?
Bingo. You're
And
so good at
chances
that.
are you're going to come across a segment that doesn't like you, doesn't like what you're doing, has a complete opposite opinion, and that's okay. Welcome to America in
I was just
2026.
going to say, God bless America.
There you go. All right, everyone.
We'll see you real soon.